What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Who Gives a Dram? What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another week, another episode here at Who Gives a Dram, episode 12. It's officially been 3 months of creating a whiskey-based podcast. It's kind of weird thinking of it that way. It's 3 months worth of, I don't know how many hours that equates to, but 3 months I've been doing this every week, putting out the show for you guys, and I couldn't be happier. So, if you're not already, we'll get this out of the way. Follow me on Instagram at Who Gives a Dram. I just made a Facebook page like right before I started recording this, so you can follow me on Facebook, Who Gives a Dram, YouTube, Who Gives a Dram, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, every podcast website I'm available on. So just make sure you're subscribed and you rate and review and you comment, leave me your opinions, so on and so forth. So if you do that, that'd be awesome. That's a big help. Again, if you're interested in any type of partnership, sponsorship, anything like that, feel free to message me on Facebook, message me on Instagram, shoot me an email, which you can access through my Instagram, and we will get the ball rolling on that. So before I really dive into the podcast and get into the whiskey and what happened this week and everything, I want to explain a new, I wouldn't say sponsor of the podcast, but a new media platform / company. I'm doing air quotes on the video podcast that a few good pals of mine and myself are starting. It's going to be called the Grapevine Media. www.thegrapevinemedia.com, and this podcast is now going to be brought to you by the Grapevine Media. Grapevine Media was an idea that was presented to me from a really good friend of mine who kind of convinced me to start podcasting and gave me the idea, and myself and my brother, of starting a podcast. And we got together and we discussed the idea of creating a centralized website where not only we can conjugate all of our podcasts together to one centralized location, but we can hopefully down the road help other podcasters grow their fan base organically, naturally, with a group of dedicated people that are fans of all of our products. So the end result of that is the Grapevine Media. We are in the very beginning stages of creating this website, but if you do go to www.thegrapevinemedia.com, you will see kind of what we're working with. So we have a few podcasts on the site now. Who Gives a Dram is on there. I'm proud to be on there along with my other podcast with my brother, Life in the Basement. My buddy's podcast, his name is Matt. It's called the TMD Podcast, the Matt Donahue Podcast, where he talks all things New England sports, gets into a little bit of TV, movies as well. Just a really genuine, good guy who can, just like me, does a podcast by himself and can actually hold a conversation by himself for an extended amount of time. He's the buddy who kind of got me into the podcasting scheme of everything. So he's was intricate in actually creating the website. He's actually who brought it to my attention, asking me what my ideas were, if I wanted to be a part of helping it grow. And he's one of my brother's best friends. He's been a pal of mine since I can remember. So I'm happy to join him. And our other buddy, his name's Hunter. They do the Leatherheads Fantasy Football podcast down there. Anything fantasy football that y'all need, hit up that podcast. They do a great job. Matt, Hunter, and another guy that I forgot his name, that I've never met, but they all do a great job. It's very entertaining, all strictly fantasy football. And if you want to get a head start on next season in terms of fantasy football projections and who's going to be good and how you can win your league, tune into the Leatherheads Fantasy Football podcast. But again, this is an idea that we're all very passionate about and that we all want to do. And it's nice finding some guys that are just as committed to this as I am. So it's a project that's kind of at its first level right now, but we plan to expand exponentially, hopefully within the next year. And our end goal is, again, to provide a space for creators of all avenues, especially podcasting, because that's what we do. We're podcasters by nature. To help grow their audience through our base of organic, natural followers, not just bots, not just buying followers or however people do it. I don't even know how that works. Find advertisers down the line and just grow their brand naturally. So it's an idea that we all have had, and I'm going to stop plugging this now because I'm sure everybody's bored out of their mind, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm very passionate about Who Gives a Dram, and the fact that I'm putting this podcast on Grapevine, and I am aiding in the basically the ground development of something that we're all passionate about. I'm very proud of. So again, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. I will link it in the bio of this podcast on YouTube and all of my actual podcast sites like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and so on and so forth. So make sure you check that out. It's a very cool thing, and we're very proud of it. So grapevinemedia.com. It's going to be great. But with that out of the way, let's dive into this week. So I've got a whiskey here. By the way, speaking about organic followers, with my other podcast, Instagram gave us money. They gave us like $20 to create an ad campaign on Instagram, and I don't know if I just didn't do it right or what, but if you decide to do that, you should really kind of look into it first. I guess if they just give you the money like they gave us, then that's okay, but we literally got, so our post probably, and again, we don't really use this Instagram. This podcast is more for fun. It's not something that we take too seriously, but we got like, our typical Instagram post will get like 20 likes. I don't know, and I don't know what the engagement is, but it's not much more than that. I mean, probably 100 people, some around there. I don't know. And this random post that we made promoting an episode got like 500 likes, and it was the weirdest thing. Everybody, just the most random people with one post and 2 followers were liking this. So it's obvious that Instagram is using, it's just a lot of bots is what I'm assuming those things are. So if you do go that route of getting an ad campaign through Instagram or Facebook or whatever, not to say it's bad, but in terms of organic people that are actually going to listen to your show, I don't know how that's going to help. I don't know the how tangible it is and how it's going to correlate to actual people who grow to be fans. And that's a touchy subject for podcasts because people are so focused on how many downloads do you get, how many listens do you get, yada yada, and that's always important. But I know, at least for myself, I have a group of people that are going to listen every week that I curtail the show towards. That that is why I do this. Besides the passion, besides liking and very much enjoying drinking whiskey and talking about whiskey and producing this podcast, I do it for the people that that reach out to me, say they enjoy the show, that like the show, that subscribe, that listen every week. So growing a show naturally and organically is probably the most times I've said organic in the shortest span ever in my entire life. But it's true. An organic fan is intricate to podcast success. So I don't even know why I started talking about this, but what happened this week? WandaVision came out this week, and I might start not posting my podcast on Sundays and maybe do another day during the week because I feel like I'm always a week behind in terms of shows and fights and movies and stuff like that. But by the time this comes out, episode 3 will have come out from WandaVision. By the time I record my next podcast, episode 4 would come out. But episodes 1 and 2 I watched on Friday when it came out, and let me tell you what, man, it was weird as shit. That show was so strange that I had no idea what was going on, but I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked by it. I really enjoyed how it was. Oh, by the way, spoilers. I'm going to give you spoilers. It's been a few weeks since anyway, so by the time this podcast comes out. I really liked how everything was in black and white. I thought it was really cool, and it really made how the symbolism of color played an intricate role in the show, obviously, because there were very few scenes where color was thrown in. Now my brother knows a little bit more about this. I don't. I guess there's an agency similar to Shield, and I think it's called Sword, that is I believe is going to play an intricate role in Captain Marvel 2, or maybe another Disney Plus show that's coming out, maybe Loki. But I believe it was referenced in the end of Captain Marvel, the first Captain Marvel, which was probably the worst Marvel movie. We can get into ranking Marvel movies at a later date, because that will probably be a good chunk of time, and we just don't have the time today. But I guess it was at the end of Captain Marvel 1, it had something to do with space. I don't know. That's what my brother was telling me. But the show was weird. Everything was great. The acting was great, and I thought it was really cool. One of the things I noticed was when it transitioned from what I call sitcom cinematography to actual high quality camera movements. My best example is it's obvious they're playing up on the sitcom aspect of this show, like the Dick Van Dyke Show and stuff like that, black and white shows from back in the day. But when things get serious, like not serious, but when you can tell when the tone changes in an instant. There's a scene in, I believe, this first episode where Vision's boss comes over for dinner and he starts choking, and it's almost like time got caught on a loop, because the wife kept on saying something and she kept on repeating herself, and then Wanda, it almost looks like she snaps out of it and she says like, Vision, help him, almost as like, Vision, what the hell are you doing? Go help the guy. And Vision just kind of reaches in, because he's a hologram. He reaches right in, pulls the food out, throws it out. And then the boss and his wife leave like nothing ever happened. Also at the end of the second episode, where the beekeeper comes out of the sewer, I couldn't think of the word, the sewer drain. You can tell when they go outside, the camera angle and the way the camera moves and follows the two of them changes. I don't know how to describe it. It's almost more fluid, and it's more not precise, but thought out as to where it's gonna pan from. It was very, I thought it was really cool how they did that. It was just more of like the camera pan was different, and I know I'm doing a bad job explaining it, but while you watch it, you'll notice. You'll really notice. Right when the camera switches from inside the house, when they go outside to see what the noise is at night. This is right at the end of the episode. The person comes out of the swamp, or the sewer drain, and the camera just kind of pans differently. And then Wanda just says like, no. And it all reverts back to before they left the house. Very strange, but it kept me thinking, and I enjoy that about a show. I like to think during a show. There are some shows and movies that are strictly a means to relax and just to take your mind off things, but for the most part, I do enjoy a show or movie that kind of makes me contemplate my surroundings a bit more. It makes me think about life, or being a man, or being a good person, or being a good son, or any types of those. Like John Wick's not really one of those movies. You watch John Wick strictly to take your mind off of shit and to watch Keanu Reeves be a total badass. But WandaVision, although it's kind of the same, it does make you think a little bit, and it's almost like a suspenseful, what is going on type of vibe that I like. So I'm excited to watch episode 3, which will come out before this episode even drops, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. And by the way, I just got done listening to Whiskey Philosophy podcast before I started my episode here. Josh and Matt, the the show that you're talking about in your podcast that reminded you of WandaVision, the movie, the Jim Carrey movie, is The Truman Show. Great movie, one of my favorite Jim Carrey movies. So, shout out to my guys at the Whiskey Philosophy Podcast. One more thing I want to hit on. Obviously, again, I know this fight's going to happen before this or after this podcast comes out. Before this podcast comes out, this fight will happen. But I will try to put out another review soon after the fight happens. Also, you can read my preview blog on the Grapevine Media. One of the things we're going to be doing is creating blog posts and commenting on a bunch of different avenues that we just don't have time to on our podcast, on our respective podcasts. So the fight I'm referring to is McGregor versus Poirier 2. It's going to be, and to quote the great Jim Ross, an absolute slobber knocker of a slugfest. I'm a huge Conor McGregor guy. I'm a huge UFC guy to begin with. I love my MMA, and I think it's going to be as of right now, it's the biggest fight of the year. Depending on who Conor McGregor faces throughout the year, it might be the biggest fight of the year. It's a huge rematch. Their first meeting, Conor McGregor knocked out Dustin Poirier in 90 seconds, just about 90 seconds, and that happened on September 27th, 2014. So that shows you how long ago these two fought, the two men that these guys have become, the two fighters they've become. My official prediction, which will be out in my blog on thegrapevinemedia.com, is McGregor knockout inside 3 rounds. So you're never going to catch me not rolling with McGregor. He's my guy. I love him. And although Dustin Poirier is also in one of my top 5 favorite fighters in the UFC, I just don't see the fight going too much different than the first fight. Maybe a bit longer. I don't know if it's going to end within 90 seconds. I know that McGregor predicted it would be a 60-second knockout. I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd be very surprised. I wouldn't put money on that, but you never know with Conor McGregor. He also knocked out Jose Aldo within 13 seconds, so but Dustin Poirier's got a chin on him, man. I don't remember the last time he was finished. There's Khabib where he got submitted. He was knocked out by Michael Johnson early in his lightweight run, and then Conor McGregor knocked him out. So he hasn't been finished much. So we'll see how that fight goes, but I'm excited. Saturday night's going to be a fun night. But let's get into the whiskey. A quick, this episode is, we've barely done any whiskey, so let's get into it. I have a whiskey today that I bought strictly because of my love for Weller, which I haven't reviewed on the podcast yet, but I will. Weller is a wheated bourbon, so the wheat content is higher. I believe a wheated bourbon means that the second most dominant ingredient in the mash bill is wheat. I could be wrong about that, but regardless, it has a higher wheat content than most bourbons do. Obviously, for it to be a bourbon, it still has to have 51% corn. So it's not the most dominant ingredient, but it's up there. And I never had this brand before. I've heard good things about it. Relatively cheap, relatively inexpensive. I think it's around $35-$40, I think. But what we're going to do today is a little bit of Redemption Wheated Bourbon. I love the bottle, and that's part of the reason also I bought it. And I remember that night, it was a tough night at work, and I just wanted to try something new when I got home. So Redemption Wheat is what I went with, and we're going to try it out. We're going to see how it is. I've had it before. As you can see, the bottle's opened. But it's been a while. Also, work hard, drink whiskey. My new favorite quote of all time. This Knob Creek cup is the best. But we're gonna dive right into drinking a little bit of whiskey here. What time is it? 4:13 p.m. as I'm recording this, so it's not too early. I haven't had much to eat today, but we'll get right into it. So, bottle. I love the logo. It kind of reminds me of my logo a little bit in terms of the layout. I like the white and gold. I think that's sharp, just like the Saints. If you listened to last week, you'll know my brother is a bandwagon Saints fan. We'll open this bottle up. So, but first we'll get into the color, as we usually do. And what I did this time was I basically copy and pasted the notes that were on the website so I could compare it, because if I smell it, it smells very sweet, like vanilla and sugar, brown sugar. But I want to compare it to what I'm supposed to be able to smell and taste so that we can compare and contrast. So if I'm going to smell it, first we'll go with the color. It looks like very light. Not a heavy color to it. Not like the Colonel H. Taylor we did last week, where it had a dark bronze, melted bronze metal color, I think is how I described it. This is a lighter, kind of like I would say it's like an orange, like a burnt orange a little bit. I don't know. I don't have the color on here as to what the color is supposed to look like, but the smell. I'm gonna take a little smell break real quick. I have a lot of. Let me get this in the shot. I always forget to put the whiskey back into the shot. How does that look? Right there. The smell. I get a lot of sweetness. It is a. What we got here? It's a 45% wheat mash bill, 51% corn, 4% malted barley, 96 proof at 4 years old. So it's clocking in pretty. It's 48% alcohol. It's clocking in pretty high for a 4-year bourbon. I'm not gonna lie, that is a pretty high proof for a 4-year bourbon. A blend of 51% corn. Yep, got all that. Aged in new charred oak barrels, which is legally required for it to be called a bourbon. Our wheated bourbon is a mash of corn, wheat, and malted barley, giving it a smooth, mellow character. The extended barrel aging imparts a toasty, nutty aroma. I don't really get a whole lot of nuttiness, just a bunch of sweetness. Let's see what what I'm supposed to smell here. I got it written down. Candied ginger, sage, and lavender with fragrant aromas of fresh pear over layers of vanilla and cedar. Extremely complex with subtle notes of bay leaf and burnt toffee. Okay, I think what Redemption's doing there is trying to make the nose sound way better than it is by saying that it's extremely complex. I think that's another way of saying that it smells very generic. No offense to Redemption. I do love Redemption. I think they're a great brand. I just don't get a whole lot of that complexity with it. I get a lot of sweetness. I guess I get a little bit of that lavender. It's like a subtle, it's very easy on the nose, I guess I should say. Nothing that's going to punch you in the mouth like some of the whiskeys we've done on earlier podcasts. It smells good though. It does smell good. I don't have any bay leaf or burnt toffee. None of that stuff. Don't see that. But it does smell very good. It smells like something I'm going to enjoy, and we're going to enjoy it now. So if you're drinking whiskey with me, cheers, Schlante. Let's do it. Right off the bat, you can tell that's a young bourbon. But it hides its proof well, man. I'll tell you that much. It really does. I would never guess that this is 96 proof. I would never guess that. This seems like this goes down like an 80 proof, like an Old Forester 86 proof. Like it goes down very, very smooth. This is dangerous. This could be dangerous. If you start drinking this when you're already a little bit drunk, this is going to taste like nothing. But still, it's 96 proof. Let's see what the palate's supposed to be. I get a lot of sweetness. That's all I get. Vanilla. I still have a little bit of that lavender, florally taste to it. Doesn't taste bad, but nothing jumps out at me for it to be it tastes different than the other whiskeys that I've had. Like I can tell there's a difference there. I just can't put my finger on what it's supposed to be. Let's read what it's supposed to be. The palate on this whiskey is silky and harmonious. That is a word I would never expect to be paired with a whiskey. Yet robust and intense. Okay, so it's... Okay, that confuses me. Flavors of roasted coffee beans, smoked meats, and hazelnut harmoniously with spicy notes of cardamom and black pepper and a fresh hint of mint. I don't get any of that. I don't know what to say. I don't get any of that. I get just a regular bourbon, sweet. I don't get smoked meat at all. When I think of smoked meat, it takes me back to my Ardbeg Wee Beastie review. I don't, not even a little bit. Not even, maybe I gotta give it another sip. I don't know. Let's try it again. It's very good. It's very good. Do not get me wrong. It is very good. That second sip, I got a little bit of rye spice, especially at the end. What does it say? I don't get smoked meats, roasted coffee meats. No, I get some black pepper. I don't get a hint of mint, but I can see what they're coming from. Kind of like a florally spice, maybe is what they're trying to go for. No coffee though. Not to say this isn't great. Like I said, I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna finish this, not right now, but I'm gonna finish this bottle. I haven't had much of it yet. I was waiting for a good week on the podcast to review it, and I chose this week. I usually just pick whiskeys at random. I go to my bar, which is right behind me, right next to my Christmas tree with half the lights out that I refuse to take down because I want it to be Christmas still. And I go and I say, what do I feel like doing? I don't want to get any of the heavy hitters yet. We just did Colonel H. Taylor last week. I'll go Redemption, and I'll research it for a little bit before I jump into reviewing it. But it's a solid whiskey, man. It really is. If we're gonna rate it 1 out of 10 on the Who Gives a Dram scales based on price, I want to see what I'm gonna Google it real quick. MSRP Redemption. Sorry, this is boring as shit. If you're listening and watching, I apologize. $45.99. Available in 750ml bottles for $45.99. That's on the whiskeywash.com. So we'll say that's a fair price. I think I said between, what did I say? 40 and 45, maybe. I don't remember what I said at the top of the episode. But for $45.99, there's a lot of players at bay. There's a lot of whiskeys that are at that price range that I would buy before this. However, if you have it, it's really a solid everyday pour, especially for the proof, man. You're not going to find much better. 96 proof, the way this goes down, it's kind of like the Colonel H. Taylor. It's 100 proof, bottled in bond. It's 96 proof. It's not far behind, and it just goes down like an 80 proof bourbon. And it's very good. But the price is, I think, a little high for my liking. Nothing outrageous. I would not pay a dime over $45.99. Not to say that I think this is bad. I just wouldn't. There's too many other players at bay for me to pay more than that on this. So the fact that this is at the top of what I would pay for it already, I like the bottle, I like the color, I like everything about it. It's subtle, it's soft, even though it says the exact opposite on its website. I disagree with it. I'm gonna go with a 7.9 for Redemption Wheated. I think that's a fair score. It's a let me get this right here. It's a wow, you can't see it. It's a solid bourbon, man. I'm gonna drink it. It's something that I'm gonna choose to drink. Coming up here with some free time coming up. So it's always nice to have different whiskeys on your bar. To be a good gifting whiskey, because no one would buy it for themselves, I don't think, except for me, unless they are Redemption fans by nature. But I don't know how many people really are Redemption fans. But it's a solid bourbon. It looks good. It looks like it'd be a good bourbon, and it is. So 7.9 here on the Who Gives a Dram scales. And with that, it is time for me to get rolling. Let me exit out of this. We're at the 30-minute mark, so I'm going to let my buddy Nick Bossy play me out. Pretty New Diamonds, streaming on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Again, check out our new media content website, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. Check it out. Let me know what you think about it. And it's something, like I said, that we're all very passionate about, and I would love to hear your your opinions on what we can do better, what you like about it, and so on and so forth. So make sure you're following the podcast on Instagram at Who Gives a Dram. Follow my new Facebook page, Who Gives a Dram, and subscribe on YouTube. Watch the videos on YouTube. I do appreciate you guys doing that. I get my hair all nice and done just for these YouTube episodes. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Have a great week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will talk to you all next week. Cheers.
Up in New England, that girl sure loved me. We got together and brought things to life. So I did buy her a pretty new diamond and asked that sweet woman if she'd be my wife. Kind of feeling love songs are made of. With that sweet woman, spend the rest of my life. Before she came along, I was hurting, but at the end of my tunnel, I saw no light. Broke my heart and I can't keep going. Guess I'll just sit here and get drunk tonight. Vows they meant nothing and she ran to a stranger, and with Johnny Walker I'm passing my time. I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. Gave me back that pretty new diamond and broke my heart a second time. But I got the last laugh when I pawned off her ring, 'cause I bought me a dime bag and a case of Coors Light. I asked the Lord, what should I do? But I'm too drunk to hear him tonight. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I could cry. So sit with my bottle while Hank Sr. singing. I'm so lonesome I